Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Earthly Headlines. Today we're going to talk about the Cambrian explosion and how scientists discovered the oldest animal identified it dates prior to the Cambrian explosion by a significant amount. So they checked the geological record, and up until this point it's being called the Holy Grail of paleontology, which is, for the longest time they were debating whether this was the oldest animal and whether it was even an animal at all. Basically, after a long time, they finally reached the conclusion that unequivocally it is the oldest animal, period, known to man ever. And let's go into why they think that. They found fat molecules on the fossil, and they found cholesterol. They were able to basically scrub it off of the fossil itself. So the creature is called Dickinsonia, and it's 100% confirmed that it lived 558 million years ago. So over 500 million years ago it lived. And the findings place its existence 20 million years before the Cambrian explosion. So that's a long time. I mean, it's nothing compared to 500 million, but 20 million, that's a lot, because up until now, the Cambrian explosion, if you don't know, by the way, the Cambrian explosion is basically it refers to the sudden appearance of all these animals in the fossil record at around 530 years ago, give or take, 538 years ago, 538 million years ago, excuse me. They really don't know why that happened. Like, why are there suddenly a bunch of animals here? This animal places it 20 million years before that. So it just opens a whole new avenue of questioning about basically how animals came to be. This Australian scientist, or team of them, they went to Russia on this cliff back in 1947, and they took pictures and they found these fossils. And ever since then, scientists have revisited the site and taken a look at it, and just to see what the fuss is all about. Here's a photo of it, which is pretty remarkable, actually, that this is over 500 million years old. This was debated about for a very, very long time. So the oval-shaped fossil was so well preserved that scientists could extract molecules of fat. So even over 500 million years can pass, and these molecules still, some trace amount of it could survive, and that's remarkable in itself. So here's what Jochen Brock says, who's part of the team from Australian National University. He says, the fossil fat molecules that we've found prove that animals were large and abundant 558 million years ago, millions of years earlier than previously thought. So animals were large and abundant even back then. That doesn't mean, just to clarify, they found a fossil that dated to 558 million years, but that doesn't mean that's when animals started. So back then they were abundant. So who knows how much further back it goes. And it brings a bunch of questions like, how long did evolution take? Like, at 558 million years ago, those animals that were living back then, how long did it take them to get to that point? I'm talking about evolution. I mean, because they just weren't placed there, right? I mean, they didn't have spaceships, or there weren't humans back then who had a zoo, and then it just kind of got overrun. That didn't happen, right? The symmetrical oval-shaped organism grew up to around 1.4 meters in length and had rib-like features across its body. Man, that thing must have looked gnarly. It probably looked like a Pokemon or something. Its fossil was so well preserved that scientists found cholesterol, which they have called a hallmark of animal life. Yes, that would make sense. Cholesterol is found pretty much in anything that has a beating heart, right? And scientists have been fighting for more than 75 years over what Dickinsonia and other bizarre fossils of the Ediacaran biota were. Giant single-celled amoeba, lichen, failed experiments of evolution, or the earliest animals on Earth, Brock said. So he says failed experiments of evolution. Does that imply some sort of intelligence? Or is it strictly just natural selection dictated by nature? Or is nature itself just one giant intelligence? I don't know. That question maybe a few decades ago would have gotten you laughed out of the room. But now it seems like all bets are off, and anything could have been going on back then. I mean, they were arguing about this for 75 years. And they couldn't come to a consensus until now, which the fossil fact confirms Dickinsonia as the oldest known animal fossil. And there may be something older out there that we don't even know about. So scientists had been puzzled by the fossil for so long because the rocks containing the fossils had been weathered by heat and pressure. Okay, so there's a rock, and inside the rock is where the fossil is. Just if you're confused about that at all, they were testing everything, the whole rock, and they were getting back really strange data. But they made a groundbreaking discovery after extracting the actual molecules from inside the fossil rather than just looking at the structure and trying to figure out what the structure was. So I guess for a long time they were just trying to look at the outward appearance and trying to cross-examine it with other data and just making theories and hypotheses around it. But it took them a while to actually get up and extract the actual molecules and put it under a microscope and see it actually what it is. And that, I don't know why it took them so long to do that. If it was such a heated debate for 75 years, wouldn't somebody come up and maybe in the 80s, at least 30 years ago, like halfway through, wouldn't they say, hey, let's just look at this through a microscope and see what's up? They had the technology for that back then, didn't they? I mean, this isn't new tech. And they've been looking at stuff under microscopes for a while. Let's see what Ilya Bobrovsky says, the paper's lead author. He says, I took a helicopter to reach this very remote part of the world where I could find Dickinsonia fossils with organic matter still intact. So I guess that speaks to what a painstaking process this was. I had to hang over the edge of a cliff on ropes and dig out huge blocks of sandstone, throw them down, wash the sandstone, and repeat this process until I found the fossils I was after. So I guess there are other fossils, but not the correct one that he was looking for. So that's a lot of work. That must have taken him forever. Dickinsonia was found to contain a striking abundance of cholesterol. So here are some interesting numbers. 93% cholesterol compared to just 10.6% and 11.9% found in the deposits immediately above and below the fossil. So yeah, he definitely hit some sort of pay dirt there. That's pretty undeniable, 93%. If that's a correct figure, if that is cross-examined and there's consensus and agreed upon, then yeah, that's pretty irrefutable. Because why else would that cholesterol be there? Like something living must have been there, and not just a plant either. Like something with, like I said, like a circulatory system of some sort. The team worked alongside researchers from the Russian Academy of Science, scientists from Max Planck Institute for Biogeochemistry. Earlier this year, scientists discovered the oldest known human fossil also. So they found the oldest known human fossil and the oldest known animal fossil, period. Let's just compare the two numbers. So the oldest known human fossil outside of Africa is between 177 to 194,000 years, compared to the earliest animal, which is 558 million years, over 500 million years. The question is, now that we know that there were animals, and not just like bacteria, I mean real animals like vertebrates that were pretty large, 20 million years before the actual explosion that we all thought animals came from. Like I said earlier, all bets are off, right? So could humans have gone that far back too? Maybe not us, maybe some sort of proto-human or something maybe something not even with a human shape, but something with advanced intelligence. Is that possible? That's what when I was reading this, those were some of my initial thoughts. And especially what that scientist said about he kind of says like failed experiment of evolution. So I know he's probably talking about survival of the fittest, but if there were a bunch of failed experiments, like stuff that, like, why would evolution even take it into that direction? Like, why would that fossil survive? Were the conditions on Earth just so easy that there are animals out there who could just survive, like, or was something else going on there? I don't know if we'll ever find those answers, but all I know is that all we can do is keep digging for fossils, and eventually we'll probably find something. And especially underwater too, if we could really find some fossils underwater and date those and see how old those, I think we could get a better picture of what was going on this is a big deal because the Cambrian explosion was such a huge. It was in every single textbook. If you've gone to even public school, you knew about the Cambrian explosion and the fact that there were animals and a bunch of animals living at that time, and a bunch of their fossils happen to survive to this day. I mean, that in itself is a huge mystery. But now that we know that there's a entire population of these animals here, gosh, I just don't know what to think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Did you guys know about this? What do you guys know about the Cambrian explosion? Do you guys, or is there any literature or historical documents of, or maybe religious documents that talk about animals that you know of? Because I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Let me know in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.